I have had a thought, an idea, and unfortunately it's come to me at a time when I cannot execute it, which is exactly what happened to the last idea I had. I'm, so I'm not feeling 100%. I started feeling sick a couple weeks ago, probably a month ago, and then it went away, and then it came back. And now it's come back in force. Can I get you to focus on my face here? So it's Friday, and I just clocked out of work. I'm not feeling 100%. I'm a little under the weather. I thought I was getting better because I was sick maybe a month ago with a cold, nothing major, but an annoyance, and not up to 100%, which means I shouldn't be going outside and doing wildlife stuff. And that weekend I wasn't. The following weekend I did. Then I took the weekend off and everything came back. And now we're on a weekend where I'd like to be going out and I'm not going to because it's been difficult just getting through the day of normal things. It's a Friday. I've just clocked out of work, which I work a little bit extra through the week so I can be done early on Friday. And that gives me time to, you know, take care of shaving and things like that take a little extra time I don't have during the week. But I've had an idea. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go do anything about this idea for a bit of time. Next week is Thanksgiving, and I was planning to take that weekend off and stay home and enjoy the family and the friends and the Thanksgiving and the food and all the things. So I'm at least recording this because if I have an idea and I put that idea forth in some kind of way, I'm more likely to do something about it. Now, the first idea has to do with this right here, what I'm recording on, which is pretty interesting. And I have another thing set up. Main phone here with the audio device that's recording my audio into that. However, this is secondary phone with the gimbal that I use. Was that the idea that I went through this whole thing that I can't be excited that I'm going to use? No, it was not. That was something else I discovered while I was getting this whole thing set up. But it works and it doesn't work, obviously. For me to have better audio, I need a mic on me and not just kind of projecting out into the room where you get all the echoes and things. Really, what would be better is if I put a lav mic on, but I'm not feeling 100% and I did not do that. Why didn't I do that? I could just plug a lav mic into this. Anyway, the other idea that I had, about a year ago, more than a year ago, I thought of how I could improve the multitude. Ooh, okay. About a year ago, I had a thought about improving one aspect to the wildlife videos, which was the landscape side of it. It's kind of a two-pronged attack. You have to do both. In a way, you may have heard this before because it's been said over the internet so many times that I've heard it enough times, it's drilled into me. Audio is half of video. If your audio doesn't sound good, hence why I'm doing this, to make sure that it sounds better, then the video suffers from it. It's 50% of the total end product. In the same way that you could have amazing audio, but if the video is not fun to look at, that's more of a podcast almost, depending on the subject matter. But then the video suffers. You kind of have to have both in equal amounts. In the same way, what I'm trying to do with the wildlife videos, it's not just enough to have video or photos of wildlife. You kind of need to see the area. You want the bigger picture. You want the real tight close up on the animal and to see all the details and really get a grasp of scale, or to have it larger than life in a way that you could see, you know, a tiny little bird that is then blown up to the size of your TV when you're watching a nature documentary. But you want that camera to also zoom out and you want to get the full scope of it. You need that. You have to have it spliced in between, right? You got to have both. So I'm trying to learn how to do both. Over a year ago, I thought, oh, you know what would be good? I could use it for both the job that I have where I do some product videos, and I also could use it for wildlife stuff. So I went out and I did a whole day of just landscape video. I built the whole camera up. I had everything set up. It was a big, heavy, ridiculous setup there. And then I put it on a slider track. And I went around a location by the water and I did some video shots with it slow panning back or side to side or up and out while also moving that. Because you can just take a fixed image and rotate it, right? Because if you've just got a camera and it's pointing, you can do these movements very easily. But what if you want to move the actual image along there, or front and back? A slider track is super useful for that. But you have to be really stable when you're doing that, especially a big heavy camera like the one I was using, the Pocket Cinema camera. And so then I thought about it some more and I thought, well, I could use the Sony, the one that I just had in my hand. When I go out and I'm taking wildlife pictures or video, I also carry the secondary Sony camera that I have once I picked up a second one, and I use this to take pictures of the landscape or a quick video or something like that. And then enter the sickness. Over the last week, at some point during the week, I had the thought of this thing that I'm recording on. This thing that I'm recording on, which is a stabilized gimbal camera, and is the best one that I use whenever I'm doing anything handheld, because it is far better at, if I need to move the camera, it is pretty stable, because the whole thing is motorized, predicting your movements. Really cool, really neat that it's doing that. I'm doing this here where I can actually plug it into my phone, so I get a much bigger screen to see, which is nice. And that reminded me that I do have another gimbal. I have a much bigger, full-size gimbal that I haven't used in quite some time, besides using it for the work of photography, video, thing like that. What if I combine them? I don't really have a good clean background for this, but I have a slider track on 2 tripods, and then on top of that is a gimbal with my camera. And now this is kind of neat, right? It's interesting. And I went, this is, now because I don't have I could actually put, I've just attached it to the base of this slider track because I don't have a whole quick release system yet. Once I put it into practice, I think I would do something like that so that I could better. And that way it's also not angled this way, but it is free floating. So I can move it in any direction I need to, which is pretty cool. It's set to very slow right now, so the camera movements are very careful, but this would in fact allow me to get both of best worlds. It would be nice and stable for moving shots, and if I come out here, I can in fact bring it down. I can actually move it along 2 axes. But then this would allow me to, let's pretend that instead of this messy closet here, we're looking at a beautiful landscape. Wide river mouth feeding into a pool of water, a lake, and then there's mountains in the background. And so what we want is we want a nice slow shot of this. We want a slow drawback motion, and then to go from, if we were pointed, let's see, down and at the mouth of the river, and then our end movement is to wind up back here while going out and spinning to one side of it to really reveal that landscape. We could do that. I could do all of this. I could do so many things with this. It's so interesting. I don't know why it took me over a year to think about combining these things, and probably because I never really tried using I just set it up as is. This gimbal, I only ever tried using it as it is here. I never tried plugging it in via a cable to use the software. Which brings me to the final little piece of this idea, which really brings it all together and makes me excited and want to use it, and I can't... There. Well, point up. Which brings me to the final part of this entire idea that I had, after playing around with it and learning a bit more of the gimbal and the intricacies of what it can do, and playing around with features that I never intended to use. There's an entire software app for this. A mobile app for your phone, which unfortunately I have mixed emotions about. Both this full-size gimbal and this gimbal, the reason I bought this one is because I liked this one so much. They're both made by the same company that I don't want to mention because I don't support them anymore, except I've already bought their products. It's kind of a mixed bag. They've had their app pulled off the App Store, the Google App Store. I don't know about Apple because I don't use Apple, but the Google Play Store is now does not have them. You have to go and download them separately. Hence why I will never put one of those apps on my main phone here with all of my information on it. This phone has been completely wiped. My old phone there is completely basically a blank slate with a fake account that doesn't have any real information on it. And the reason for that is because they've been pulled off the Play Store because of security concerns. This company is owned by China, and they very much have built-in tracking and stealing of data information. You cannot use this without location, and are sharing it with third parties in China. Hence why you cannot get access to it anymore. I don't want to use it in any way, but it's super cool. For example, let me turn on this here. There we go. Go into this app and open this part up. And now the phone, I don't have a mount for this just yet. But let's say I'm out and I'm ready to shoot this magnificent scene that I've set. This mountainscape and, landscape thing. How best should I control this? Now, what if I didn't want to sit right next to it the entire time? What if I wanted to be hands off? Well, I can't do that because of the control of this, but then I kind of need to have two hands, and it's a whole thing here, isn't it? So, this is an Xbox controller that is connected to my phone that is using the app. This is cool. What's more familiar for me? The feeling of the little knob here on the gimbal, or the fact that I've put literally tens of thousands of hours into using this controller for various things? Oh, and that's the thing. What I was talking about with doing it one-handed and everything. I have much better control over this, much better things like this, and pretty much most everything can be done with a left joystick. Up and down, I got my side to side. The only thing, it's on a tilt right now, if you can kind of tell because of the lights. That's because I used the right joystick when I was kind of messing around with it, right? Right joystick affects this, which doesn't really, the up and down doesn't do anything. That's just affecting my tilt. I'm not interested in filming any landscapes with Dutch angles at this point in time, so I don't expect to take the camera angle and turn it on a 45. So the left one is all I really need. And then I can do that, which leaves my right hand free, and I'm not touching the camera itself. I'm not touching the gimbal. I'm not trying to worry about the little knob on here. So now I can take my camera and I can set up. Maybe I want to do one or the other. Maybe if I want to get a shot of, I'm just spitballing off the top of my head, maybe a shot of me walking along the mountainscape or something. I'm not usually the main subject of it, but sometimes. Or if something like that. What if I took that and I went, ooh, and now it's spinning thanks to the controller, and then I'm moving it with my hand. Really, what would be cool would be to control everything on this, but because this isn't a motorized gimbal, I don't have any way, but because this isn't a motorized slider, I don't have any way to do that. Really, what would be great would be if I could control everything, the entire slider track and the gimbal stuff from one controller. I don't know if that's possible. I don't think it is, because I don't have a motorized slider. I just have a motorized gimbal. And then I had another thought that I'm not going to be able to go through at any point, but what if I put a big lens on here? What's the weight limit of this? It's like 10 pounds. And that got me going, how much does my big wildlife lens weigh? Because what if that was my tripod? What if on top of my tripod I had a gimbal, and then I just set up with the controller and I watched for wildlife there, and then I used that to very slowly track and now that would be cool. I can't really do that. It's a bit heavy, the big one that I have right now. But it did make me go, well, how heavy is it? And for that, I could grab the lens and I could break out a scale, or I could just go get on the computer. And that made me go on B&H's website, because that's where I bought it from, and that's where I typically buy most camera stuff from, as they are an authorized retailer. You know what Sony's done? They've announced a new lens. They've announced a new mirrorless lens, big white 300mm f2.8. Looks fantastic. About $6,000. Not anything I'm going to be able to afford anytime soon, but it is quite literally the same kind of thing that I originally bought and I have for Canon, but Canon adapting to here adds an extra element and things like that, and it's big and bulky. This one is lightweight, but it is big, and it's going to be something I get at some point in the future, hopefully. I'll have to figure out a way to afford $6,000 for another lens, but that actually weighs enough that with the camera, I might actually be able to set up onto this thing. It's possible. It's unlikely, and I don't know if I'd get the results I want, and it's kind of a gimmick at that point, especially because when I'm trying to do the wildlife stuff, I might need to be able to quickly move between places in order to get, what if I'm looking out? The amount of times that I've had to be sitting in one place and do this and then lean over here, you can't really do that when you're set up on a tripod. You're kind of just stuck in that one position. You can't be flexible. And so then if I pop it off the tripod, what was the whole point of setting up this entire thing? So it definitely would be useful for the landscape side of things. Any subjects that aren't moving, anything like that. I mean, I could even go as far as bringing it alongside me. Here's the one that I really like. I had the thought of this. I combined the two ideas that I have yet to get to use. I'm sitting, I've got the blind over me, I'm in my camo, I'm whole up there, and then outside of that entirely, over off to the side, is a camera that I'm controlling with this, so I'm getting the landscape with me in it at the same time that I'm taking photos. I could think of that as one fantastic shot, pretty much only useful in the vlog, and that would be it, but like, it would be worth it to just do that one, to have that if I could see it. Even better would be if I could set up to get the actual video output onto here, to have a preview, like a monitor on my phone that is connected, that I'm using for the controller to control the gimbal. If I could see that, so then I could see what the camera is seeing and make sure I can nail the shot of me in the frame looking for wildlife through the thing covered in the blind. It would be silly, but it would be funny. The applications of this are fantastic. I don't know what took me so long to figure that out. Basically, this entire video has been me going, boy, I wish I could get out there and use the things that I probably should have known about a long time ago, and they just kind of came to me more recently as I was thinking through it. Man, this is all over the place, isn't it? Interestingly, depending on the cable that I plug into this, whether I use USB-C or a older USB micro, I can either have control of the focus or I can have control of the zoom, but not both. You have to pick and choose whether you want one or the other. And that is kind of my update. I'd like to be getting back out there. I'd like to be recording stuff this weekend, but because I'm not feeling 100%, I really don't think I should push it. I did have to skip several workouts this week because I just wasn't feeling up to it. I'm on the upswing now at least, but again, I don't really want to push it. So although I have this idea of going back out and doing another landscape day where I could get some nice video and have motion to the video that's nice and stabilized, I'm very excited to do that. I'm very excited to get back out and look for wildlife with the big lens in the blind. I want to do both of these things. I've yet to do either of these things, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to do it because of Thanksgiving coming up. It might have to wait until next month, which would be really sad because that would mean that I only went out once in November. I'm not thrilled about the thought of that. But there we go. So that's my update. So that's what's going on. So that's what I'm thinking. So that is the idea that I had. I'm finding useful ways and things to use equipment that I've had for a while and just never considered in its full scope. But now I might be able to do it in a way that is even cooler than I've done before. Let's not put the name of the thing right in front of it because I just said how I really don't appreciate the company and what they've done. And so that's this video. Man, this is not great. And so that's that. I rambled on for a bit more and then decided to re-record it, then scrapped it, but I think it's gone on long enough. You get the idea. I had a couple of ideas. I have the means to use those ideas. I'm just not feeling physically up to doing those ideas just yet. But I will, hopefully over the Thanksgiving break, have the energy to get back out there, maybe do a bit of landscape, maybe do some wildlife, do some things outside. It would be good. And I have a feeling, since I'm on the upswing of this cold, that will happen soon. In the meantime, I'm just going to continue recording things inside, since I have the energy for that.